Owner of a Lonely Heart is a song by the progressive rock group Yes. It is the first track and single from their 11th studio album 90125, released in 1983. Written primarily by guitarist Trevor Rabin, contributions were made to the final version by lead singer Jon Anderson, bassist Chris Squire and producer Trevor Horn. Owner of a Lonely Heart was released in October 1983, as the album's first single. It was a commercial success in the United States, becoming the band's first and only single to reach number 1 on Billboard Hot 100 Singles Chart and the Hot Mainstream Rock Tracks Chart. The song went to number 62 on November 5, 1983 and climbed into the top 10 within 7 weeks. In 1984, the song made number 8 on the year-end charts. The song has been sampled by various artists including Michael Jackson, Frank Zappa and Max Graham, whose 2005 single reached the top 10 in the UK chart. The single was reissued various times throughout the 1980s and 1990s with different remix versions and B-sides. Origins: the first version was a 4-track version Rabin recorded at his home studio in London in 1980. Rabin played all instruments on the demo as well as singing. In 2012, he would reminisce: "I had a 4-track recorder for demos, so you would record on the first and second tracks and then mix it to a third track. You would be making decisions based on what was coming, and sometimes those decisions would be wrong but you couldn't unregistered trademark to undo them. One of the things, a happy accident, was that all of the brass stabs and those weird things that happen on the record they were just a product of what happened with the demo. When we started the record, in talking with Trevor Horn, he said we should retain that stuff. We unregistered trademark just record that really cleanly. I said unregistered trademark like to keep the levels very loud, and he was totally into that. That unregistered trademark kind of how it evolved. All of the accidents on the demo ended up on the record. Owner of a Lonely Heart was turned down by various record companies, including Arista. The song was first recognized as a potential hit when Rabin played the demo to Ron Fair, who identified it as a game changer, and offered Rabin an album deal on the strength of it. Although Rabin would assemble various songs for the deal, he ultimately turned it down, opting instead to work with Chris Squire and Alan White and rework the material for what would eventually become 90,125. Rabin has also implied that the early song may have gained the revived Yes their 1980s record deal. Owner was always the flagship song of the 90,125 staff, which I had been shopping around with and landed up being approached by Phil Carson from Atlantic. Trevor Horn has claimed a significant part of the credit for the success of Owner of a Lonely Heart, including recognizing the song unregistered trademark's hit potential and salvaging it for the 90,125 sessions. By Horn unregistered trademark's account, when Rabin played him the original tape of songs intended for 90,125, Owner of a Lonely Heart was tucked away at the end and was only heard because Rabin had gone to the toilet and left the tape running. When Rabin returned, Horn had to persuade him that the song was likely to be a hit and should be used for the album. However, Horn also claims to have had serious reservations about Rabin unregistered trademark's inclinations toward American rock songwriting. Despite hearing a hit chorus, he also suggests that the song, as it originally was so awful that I was convinced that if we didn't put loads of whiz-bangs and gags all over the verse that no one would ever listen to it. Development: the song was reworked during the 90,125 album sessions in 1982 and 1983, with contributions of various kinds being made by Chris Squire, Trevor Horn and Jon Anderson. Horn claims that the development of Owner of a Lonely Heart took place over 7 months and that he was instrumental in persuading the band to record the song. By Horn unregistered trademark's account, once all of the other tracks on the record had been recorded, he was literally crawling around on the floor begging Yes to do it, on the grounds that they needed a hit single. Horn brought in the synclavier to replace the original keyboard parts played by Rabin. For the whiz-bangs and gag sound effects, he brought in a Fairlight sampler programmed by J.J. Jazalik. Horn also went against the wishes of Rabin and drummer Alan White, both of whom wanted big rock drum sounds. Instead, Horn forced a programmed sound onto the arrangement, incorporating a 5-second sample of the drum breakdown in funk, incorporated School Is Back, and also sampling and looping Whittier unregistered trademark S playing via Fairlight. Influenced by the sound of Stuart Copeland unregistered trademark S recordings with the Police, Horn also insisted that White tuned his snare drum to a high A. According to Questlove, drummer in The Roots, owner of A Lonely Heart contained the first use of a sample as a breakbeat. Regarding rewrites, Horn claims to have rewritten Rabin unregistered trademark S verses and that upon joining the band later in proceedings, Jon Anderson was dissatisfied with the second verse and rewrote it, adding the section about the eagle in the sky. As a cheeky riposte, Horn and engineer Gary Langon added the gunshot sound effect which immediately followed the verse. Squire unregistered trademark S main contribution appears to have been the Motown-styled bridge which originally appears in the song between 1:55 and 2:22. In September 2014, Rabin clarified his view on the breakdown of credit and royalties. Jon did add to my lyrics in the verses and deserved what he got, as did Chris. One can hear my development of the song on 90,124. Sounduasna unregistered trademark T-Lie. Trevor Horn being allotted a percentage was a thank you for introducing me to the synclavier, which is one of the keyboards I used on the song and I had not used before. Also, for the fun we had making it. I could go on, but I've bitten my lip for a long time largely because Trevor Horn and I are good friends. Remixes and cover versions. Owner of A Lonely Heart has been remixed numerous times, including by 808 State, in 2004 by Deep Dish, and most notably by Max Graham in 2005, whose version reached number 9 in the UK singles chart. American indie folk band Trampled by Turtles performed a version of the song in October 2014 for the AV Club SAV Undercover series. Music video. The song's music video was shown in heavy rotation on MTV, introducing the revamped Yes lineup and sound to a new generation of fans largely unfamiliar with the band's very different earlier work, which had helped to define the genre of progressive rock. The music video was directed by graphic designer Storm Thorgerson who, as part of Hypnosis, had previously designed the covers for the band's albums Going for the One and Tomato. Keyboardist Tony Kaye does not appear in the video, as at the time of the video shoot, Eddie Jobson was standing in as the band's keyboardist. Jobson can be seen briefly in a few quick shots, but he was not part of the video's animal transformation scene in which the other 4 band members take part. Ultimately, Kaye returned to the lineup, and Jobson never recorded any material with the band. Chart performance. Appearances in pop culture. Television show Mystery Science Theater 3000 made multiple references to the song during the riff of the film Final Justice. Tom Servo debates whether the owner of a lonely heart is better than the owner of a pencil, or the owner of a perfectly functional cheese slicer, or even the owner of a pie. Due to this, after that point, whenever the words owner of a lonely heart are mentioned, a Yes keyboard riff plays. The Simpsons episode The Departed has Homer singing along to the song as he enjoys driving in his loaner car. The song was played in the opening sequence of a Knight Rider television show episode, Season 2, Episode 12 Silent Night. See also, List of number 1 mainstream rock hits, List of Hot 100 number 1 singles of 1984. References. External links, Owner of a Lonely Heart at AllMusic, Owner of a Lonely Heart at Discogs, Alex Stapler violin fiddle version on YouTube, full lyrics of this song at Metro Lyrics.